Hi, friends, and welcome to 5 Minute Sunday School. Our question today is: was it nice of Jesus to curse the barren fig tree? And this question came from a philosopher named Betrand Russell, who wrote about it in his book, Why I Am Not a Christian. And it wasn't Russell's major gripe with Christianity, but it was one of his minor gripes in a section that he called the moral problem of Christianity. His major moral problem with Christianity was Jesus' teachings on hell. Nevertheless, he raises this incident with Jesus cursing the fig tree. And so let me begin by reading Mark's version of this incident. Matthew also records it, as does Luke, although Luke changes it into a more palatable parable. But here's what Mark says. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it. Well, Russell goes on to say that this is, quote, a very curious story because it was not the right time of year for figs, and you really could not blame the tree. I cannot myself feel that either in the matter of wisdom or in the matter of virtue, Christ stands quite as high as some of the other people known to history. I think I should put Buddha and Socrates above him in those respects. End quote. Well, I thought of some possible responses to Russell. I do think he asked a good question, but here are some responses that we might make. First is that this is really meant to be a symbolic passage. Perhaps it wasn't historical at all, or if it was possibly an enacted parable that Jesus through his actions told the story. And a fig tree was a common symbol for Israel. And Russell's observation that the tree is out of season due to it not having leaves, it sort of misses the point. Jesus is suggesting that Israel is out of season, and a fig tree was a common symbol throughout the scriptures for Israel. A number of examples of that. Another possible reason for this incident is that it was a literary device that the gospel writers used. Now, this isn't separated from the symbolism, but it may be that the gospel writers were foreshadowing what was to come: the destruction of Jerusalem, the judgment of Israel, the tearing of the temple curtain. Lastly, this may be a sort of moral teaching of Jesus that also may have been an enacted parable, and it's a warning against spiritual fruitlessness. Now, those three things aren't mutually exclusive. It may be kind of all taken together as the reason for this, what some see as a problematic passage in Scripture. There's some other considerations I want us to think about, too, in relation to this question. The first is that niceness is maybe not, we shouldn't equate that with Christ-likeness. They're different things. For example, Jesus says, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father and a daughter against her mother," and so on. And so niceness is really a penultimate Christian virtue, and so we shouldn't equate the two. Also, I think it's important just to acknowledge that it's okay to say that there's some difficult things about this passage. In fact, the prominent commentator William Barclay says just that. He quote, "There can be no doubt that this, without exception, is the most difficult story in the gospel narrative." End quote. Of course, I could imagine that Russell might respond to some of this by suggesting, well, if the symbolism or the foreshadowing of the moral dimensions of this parable are true, then what's the purpose of the detail about Jesus' hunger here? And in the passage, it does seem that Jesus is kind of hangry and sort of loses his cool a bit. And to that, I might suggest that Jesus was human and had real human emotions and feelings, and physical realities, and the two aren't necessarily separate. That Jesus's hunger could have been given rise to this enacted parable. Any rate, that's all for this week. Next week, I hope you'll join us for our question, which will be, what do we mean when we talk about God's will? Hope you'll join us.